Welcome to our 31st episode of Black Dance Stories. Here's a note about why we are here. Our dance world was pummeled by COVID-19, and Black dance artists are finding ways to talk about life during this time. Our world was further turned upside down after horrible events ensued nationally and globally, bringing attention yet again to the need for the Black Lives Matter movement. Black dance artists have not been quiet since. Black dance artists have been doing the work. Black dance artists continue to make work. To stay involved, we hold these weekly impromptu discussions and tell stories. Black dance stories. This is one action, and we will stay involved. We are a community working together to support, uphold, highlight, and celebrate Black creatives. Tonight is our 31st episode of what we hope will be many stories told in the artist's own voices. Tonight is Gesel, Mason, and Jamal stories' turn. Please meet some of our BDS family, and I will go first. I am Charmaine Warren. I am a Jamaican. I am the great-granddaughter of Ida Boyd, granddaughter of Solomon Goldby Chapman, and one of 9 children by Theophilus Warren and my 95-year-old mother, Pearline Warren, who lives in Jamaica. I am a non-disabled Black woman. Now and forever, I promise to give homage to the Native people by acknowledging that I live on the stolen land of the indigenous Lenape people, now known as Montclair, New Jersey, with my husband, photographer and graphic artist Tony Turner. Our daughter, Ashe Turner, a Black ballerina with locks, is in her junior year at Boston Conservatory. I have locks that are braided and wrapped on top of my head. I'm wearing a pink and white long sleeve blouse and large wooden Adinkra symbol earrings. Behind me are photos of our family, a large plant, a lamp, and an African masks. Happy Black Dance Stories Thursday to all of you, our BDS family. Thank you all for sharing the love and keeping this energy going. Thanks too for your immense dedication to dance. I turn it over to Kimani now.
Thank you, Charmaine. Welcome, y'all. As usual, in the words of Gloria Grimes, delicious, delightful dancing night. That's what I wish for all of us with these wonderful guests that we have. The importance of acknowledging our familial and dance legacies is an essential tradition. And in keeping with the tradition, I recognize my Indigenous brothers and sisters as a first step in moving toward action. With profound respect, I honor and acknowledge the Lenape, whose stolen land I am zooming from, currently known as Harlem. I am a Black, non-disabled woman, and I live with my 10-year-old son. I am sitting in my dining room. I have golden hair with close natural curls. I'm wearing a tie-dye top, kind of cut sleeves, green, rose, and white. I have my BDS sterling silver hoop earrings. I am the granddaughter of Lucille Madison, a wise and giving English professor. I teach because of her. Daughter of Ronald Augustus Fowlin, Jamaican warrior and gourmet chef. And Anne Fowlin, rebel and Renaissance woman. I dance because of them. My son Tamayo keeps me present as I witness this growing boy. I am in awe of his amazing talents and his blossoming spirit. And with that, I turn it over to Makeda.
Thank you, Kimani. My name is Makeda Lily Nwabun Kozi Margirose Roni. I am in this human experience as an able-bodied Black Indigenous American woman. Pronouns she, her, and they in acknowledgement of my ancestors and my spirit team that is all around me and that is also me. I come from a long generational line of artists and energetic intuitives on both my maternal and paternal sides, the Love Roni line, which extends through so many powerful people names, and ancestors that I send my love and gratitude to every day, even by me just being here. I am the daughter of Mia Love and Antoine Roney, sister of Kojo Roney, Zipporah Roney, and Takwazi Love, all of us beautiful, powerful artists. I acknowledge that I am living on a part of the earth's lands that was respectfully and harmoniously occupied by the Lenape, now known as Harlem, New York. I was also raised here. I am a life, body, soul alchemist in which I turn ethereal matter into what we call art, poetry, dance, and whatever else my soul is called to channel and express love, light, and truth. I'm sitting in my loft bedroom on a love seat. I am wearing a black long sleeve shirt with cutout shoulders, my hair in a back ponytail with two little I guess, bangs to the side, long, and hoop earrings and a nice little necklace. So I would love to say next that community is such a big part of Black dance stories. And so we want to know who is watching tonight. Like this video, drop some comments in the chat, say hello, and where you're watching from. Just engage, ask questions, share love. Also, please follow us on our social media. Our Instagram is at Black Dance Stories. Our Twitter at BLK Dance Stories. Both of our Instagram and Twitter links are in the chat and should also be in the description. And most importantly, please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We have a huge goal of making it to 1,000 subscribers, and we cannot do that without your help in your community. So please subscribe, follow us, share with your community. We have a subscriber Sunday, so look out for that, which is a day where we illuminate our amazing community and encouraging more people to be a part of it. We want to thank you so much for your continual love and support. So without further ado, everybody grab some wine, water, tea, whatever is your cup of happy, and let's cheers to Black Dance Stories.
Cheers.
And I pass it back to Kimani.
Woo! Thank you. So, everybody, it is so important. We need your help, your support to keep this going. It is so important. Please, please consider donating. There will be a link in the chat. So please, please think of going to the show. This is the show for Thursday nights. Please support us. Please donate. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And a solidarity statement that I'd like to say always, we will stay vigilant. Our BDS team will continue to stand in solidarity with our sisters and brothers in Africa and all over the world, with all those who want an immediate end to systemic racism. So please be active, do something. And with that, I will pass it back to Charmaine.
Thanks. Let's do this, y'all. Let's stay vigilant.
Yes.
All right. So Makeda and Kimani will be back in just a few. And it's so great to welcome Gesel. Gesel, come on in. Say hello to the people. We're here for you. Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hello, cheers.
Cheers.
Introduce yourself, and we're here for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me be a part of this. This is really quite amazing. The whole series, the whole community, knowing that we're being held in this way is really quite amazing. So thank you so much for this. My name is Gesel Rebecca Mason. I am daughter of Andrea Teresa Mason and granddaughter of Rebecca Carter Ellis Landix. I am a Black non-disabled woman with curly hair pulled in a puff on top of my head. I am in my home studio that has been created as a result of COVID with a sort of mango on the wall and blonde dance floor. I've got my purple chair back there and a green screen on the side, which I will not be using tonight. Um, I am wearing a black t-shirt that says Black Arts Matter, and the arts is in bold and colorful. I am wearing maroon pants and some purple tennis shoes or maroon or whatever color that feels like to you today. I am coming to you from the stolen lands of the Comanche and the Tonkawa people, also known as Austin, Texas. And I am grateful to those who have come before and after me, both mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and grateful to all of those who hold space for us to do what we do. I am, when I got this invitation, one of the things I was thinking about was actually the offering, Mama Charmaine, that this gives us. That idea of that these stories are here, that we are telling these stories, that we continue to tell these stories, and how we are connected to each other, and how to uplift and amplify these stories. And some of the work that I've been doing most recently has also felt very much in line with this kind of conversation. Part of that work has been around my ongoing archival project, No Boundaries, Dancing the Visions of Contemporary Black Choreographers, which features the work of different African American choreographers, including B.B. Miller, Donald McHale, David Rousseff, Rennie Harris, Diane McIntyre, Andrea Woods, Robert Battle, and a growing list, Jawole Willajo-Zahler. And what's been sort of amazing is that my body has been the living archive of this work for over 15 years. And now going through the process of turning it into a digital humanities archive so that more folks can have ongoing access to this information. And it's also, for me, the idea that dance is not just what happens on the stage, but it is something we bring with us. It is something that is a part of our being and our soul, and it's a reflection of the communities and what's going on in society. And I think a lot about what dance can do in the way that it is a lens into our present moment and our past and future moments. And so thinking about how dance can be used as a text or a way to understand ourselves and our communities and our culture and our background. And that it's not just for dancers, but it really is a way that we are invited into larger conversations about our culture, is one of the reasons I wanted to create this archive, and also to uplift and amplify the voices of African American artists and artists from along the African diaspora, whose voices have often been silenced or appropriated without credit or support. And so now we find ourselves in this COVID moment, and we are thinking about, like, oh, what is available to us online? And oh, do I have access to that? And as some of our elders begin to become older and pass on, how are we continuing to tell their stories, and before they get lost? And one of the things that happened was that in 2018, I decided I wanted to do No Boundaries for what I said was the last time, because um, I can't be the archive, the living archive. You know, like, I'm getting older. You see these gray hairs up in Hurrah. Um, I can't, I cannot continue to be the physical archive. So what does it mean to then create an archive, a digital archive that provides access, but that is also sustainable over time, that continues to grow? Because there may be 10 choreographers that were initially a part of this project, but there are more choreographers to be added, more stories to be held. Kyle Abraham is a part of it, but you know, Camille is not a part of it yet. And then some of the people who are the Blondell Cummings, like, to have her also be a part, like, to bring in some other stories to continue to have something that continues to grow, and like a place to have, where a place where, you know what, I know where I can get Black dance stories. I know it's going to be at that archive. And Gesel, let me know where that's at so that I can make sure that, I can find it when I want it, because I know there's going to be like 100 episodes, as there should be. But in 2018, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do this one last time. And I performed 7 of the solos, and did a multi-camera shoot. You know, that thing we do where you're like, I'm gonna get real good documentation, and then it gets put on the shelf and nobody sees it until you got to write that grant. You're like, wait, get that one tape that we made that one time when we finally had enough money to pay for the documentation we were supposed to. Yeah, that one. So, but thinking about capturing that story and then sharing those stories, I went back and I revisited all of the choreographies, learned a new piece from Kyle Abraham to add to the um, immediate sort of No Boundaries archive. And then on the night that I was performing, Donald McHale passed. And I remembered in that moment, I was like, that's why I'm doing this. What better way to honor this man's vision than to be performing his work from 1934, Saturday's Child, in front of a live audience? And also to be able to share his story, his interviews, his presence, to see him live on that screen, and to know that this story needs to be continued, and that this is not where it should end. It should not end right now in this live moment, but more people should continue to get to know him beyond just the work. Part of No Boundaries was, I want you to know these people as people. Why do they make the work that they create? Where did they come from? What was their heritage? What were they speaking to? What were they speaking about? And that this doesn't need to just show up during Black History Month, right? Or that one section when you like teaching class, you're like, wait, where do I find like all the stuff, all the Black stories, all the, like, during this 4 weeks, anyway. But that these folks are speaking to larger moments, that you can witness an interview with Rennie Harris. You can see me learning the work of B.B. Miller's Reign, both 15 years ago and also 3 years ago. That you can feel, you can do what dance does, which is create a kinesthetic and empathetic experience. How do we create that on the digital screen? Instead of just showing like, oh, here's the square and we'll show this previous performance, like, how can I still have that interactive experience? How can we keep the call and response going, even though nobody might be able to hear you? How can you still be like, wait, yes, that you are still over there saying the things that you need to say, and that you know that you are not alone in that. So that is an ongoing project that has grown bigger than I ever thought it would be. learning about permissions and learning about accessibility, really thinking about that and taking that into consideration, and sustainability. We know all of these things break and fall apart, but how do we make sure that these stories are accessible, that there's ways that we can still get that information if that library closed down, if that app doesn't work anymore, if that online presence falls away, if somebody passes, that there's still a way that we can have access to these stories. So that feels very much in line with, of course, Black dance stories and uplifting and amplifying voices. So thank you for that work, and I'm glad to be in alignment with that. The other thing that I am thinking about and working on is a project called Yes and, which amplifies particularly the voices of self-identified Black women, self-identifying Black women. And the idea is that it centers the voices, the creative process is centered around the creative expertise of Black women. And what happens if we start with that as the center? And there's a question that I ask: who would you be and what would you do if, as a Black woman, you had nothing to worry about? And that actually, that look, I see that's the look that usually people are like, wait, what? It's like, what would you make? How might you be in community with others? What does that free up in terms of what's possible? And so I think about Yes and as a methodology of undoing, of letting go, of shedding, of trusting your intuition, of listening to yourself, of giving yourself enough space, of listening to those in your community and letting yourself respond to and be inspired by and supported by these other voices. And then taking that methodology and then sharing it with others. So I recently did a performance with the University of Texas at Austin with my students, who better be watching, because you know you need some extra credit. No, I'm messing. But you know, so that and the idea was taking that question and then adapting it for them. And the question was, who would you be if you could be your fullest self without apology? And we took some of these questions. I have now what I consider this Yes and community, and we meet once a month, and it's permission to show up as you are. You might be in your bonnet, you might come in your robe, but they are Black artists, and we ask, what do you need? How are you doing? How can I be of support? And in those spaces, creativity has actually emerged. We've been in community with each other. We've played, we've danced. We have some words that emerge: rant, writhe, rave, remember, rest. And we've contributed to now what feels like a body of movement, a body of expertise, a body of ideas, and then to share that with other populations. So I have the great opportunity to work with different communities. So I also worked with the Austin community, and I featured the work of, for New Year's Eve, I actually did a burst into 2021, and part of the questions there were, what do you want to hold on to and what do you want to let go of as we shift from 2020 to 2021 and beyond? Because 2020 feels like it still be trying to hang on. We just had that ice storm in Texas. I'm like, 2021, I'm gonna need you to go get your 2022. Can you just come on now? Go get your cousin, tell them to chill out for a second. But it was a 5-hour improvisational performance. And the idea was to, with the yes and community in the Zoom room with us, and then also sharing out beyond that, how could I shed and or let go of what I don't need anymore, of what is no longer of use to me, and what happens after that, so that I can actually just have enough space to listen to what's next. And that has been part of a practice and a process. And so I performed that in a gallery space here in the Austin area, and I invited some self-identifying Black women visual artists to contribute work into the space. And so all of their work was on the walls, and that was part of what held me. The Yes and community held me. And then the audience was invited as witnesses to a process, to a messy process, to just not a process of not knowing, a process of shedding and letting go and seeing what's on the other side. And so I probably only have like 4 minutes left. And somebody want to have, okay, so 4 minutes. So this is what I'm gonna invite y'all to do out there in the world. Go ahead and turn on some music that makes you feel good, that makes you wanna move. And I'm gonna spend 3 minutes, because I know how I am. I'm gonna spend just 3 minutes shedding, just moving, just being in my body, letting go, because I had to run up in here. I'm gonna take off my shoes. I thought I was gonna leave my shoes on, but I'm gonna take off my shoes. And I'm just going to play for 3 minutes. Just, I don't know what's gonna happen, y'all, because this is how it is. But I'm gonna even like see, this is what happens. I asked all my students to like think about your location. Think about, usually there's an altar, there's a ritual where you have an opportunity to like shift things and change things to whatever you need to have happen in the moment. And we ain't got time for none of that. So this is going to be the ritual. This is going to be the ritual. This is, oh, look at that. This is going to be the ritual. I see you. I see you, ritual. This is going to be the ritual. Take a sip of whatever you got. Oh, I'm going to put this over here. I'm just, come on now. So just, what do you need to hold on to? What do you need to let go of? What no longer serves you? Y'all shake it off. If you need to join me, you can join. What do you need? Maybe rub it out. Ooh. What do you need to hold on to? What do you need to let go of? What don't you need anymore? What is next? What? Breathe it in, let it go. Touch something. Touch something in your space. Find something, lean against something. Close your eyes for a second. Breathe. Balance. Balance. Oh, or don't. Balance on what foot? Don't hit that fan. You know how that fan is. Move that foot. Let it go. Breathe. Show up. Get close. Move away. Shed. Let go. Breathe. Listen. Touch. Wait. Rest. Break the rules. You have permission to break the rules. You have permission to rest. You are invited You're invited. You're invited. You're invited. You're invited. You are invited. You are welcome. You are welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Oh my goodness. Jamal, come on in. I know you were watching. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Come on, Jamal. Thank you, Gesel. What a
Thank you.
nice surprise. What a nice sharing. Oh, he's still moving. Jamal is still moving.
Yes, Jamal, come on. Come on. That's, see, that's how, what? Yes. Let it go. Let it go. Come on. Let it go. What don't you need? Come on. I see that. Come on. Yes, come on.
Listen, listen, I'm coming there to Austin
Come
and
on.
tell Dorothy I'm coming there and I'm auditioning and your kids are going to need more than extra credit because I need to sell peace.
Come on.
I need to be in it.
Come on.
Okay, third party here. I'm leaving. Oh,
Gesel, listen,
I'm just gonna leave y'all two. I'll do shout outs in a minute. I'm leaving you two for 10 minutes. I'll be back. See you in a minute. Bye.
You got me all sweaty. Listen, you invited me to let go. I gotta pick my afro back. I was all ready.
I know. Let me get my puff together.
Listen, I'm on my floor already because we were doing the sit down and just kind of like be in our living room spaces and things. So I'm on my rug, and then you took us all there, and then you invited us to let go. Tell Dorothy, for anyone who's watching, Dorothy Overby is a colleague of
Yes.
at UT who also went to undergrad with me. We terrorized SMU's campus
I love that.
a few years ago, just a few years ago.
Just a minute. It was like, yeah, a couple minutes.
And so you can just let her know that I'm coming and that I'm gonna find you, and you listen. That's all I had. That was brilliant. That was brilliant. And
Come on.
that was brilliant. I read about Burst, and it was so impressive. First of all, yes to yes and. That's number one. Yes to yes. Listen, yes and everybody needs to be asking that question. I think. What would you do? What would you do if, as a Black woman, you didn't have to worry about the conditions of your existence? Number one. But also, what would you do at all? If no one was saying no. The question, when you were talking about it, it dawned on me. I wondered when that came to you. When did it dawn on you that this is a question I need to be addressing for myself? Like, that was profound. Is profound.
Mm. Interestingly, it's not something that bumping up against, like you would see, like people like Serena Williams, right? And you would see these moments and you would think, here's the stuff that they're saying about Serena Williams. Like, would they be saying if Serena Williams wasn't a Black woman?
Right. Right.
And then I also think about like some of the stories too that we don't hear, where, there was this period where, and it continues on, but I just remember really hearing the stories also of transgendered women being killed. And it was just like, what who would you be if you could walk around without fear, or
Uh-huh.
that you would be judged in this certain way, or
Yeah.
and then I had this opportunity to be a part of a Rauschenberg residency,
Mm-hmm.
and that's 5 weeks, and it's like there's a beach over here, and then you got like a dance studio. It's ridiculous.
I
And I
can't.
was like, oh wait, I could actually test this out right now. Like right now, I don't have anything to worry about. And what came out of that moment of, oh wait, like I don't have to produce anything. I'm here with all these other creative people. I can just listen and play.
You have to grade any papers
I didn't
or
have to grade. Well, I graded them, but then it was over.
right.
And I ended up coming, like I found this avatar, this Josephine avatar in this blue dress, who like rolled into the ocean in this Grecian blue dress, who
Hmm.
didn't care, like who was like, yeah, like yeah, I garden in this dress,
Right.
I swim in this dress.
Mhm.
And that gave me such a sense of freedom and permission that it was like, oh, everybody should have this moment of like,
Mhm.
uh, of freedom, that
Freedom.
kind of freedom,
Sure.
right? Where you don't have, again, like you said, I don't have to worry about the nature of my existence. And I will say it's also, it's not about not caring about any of your responsibilities. It's not
Right.
like, well, I would just do nothing. It's like, no, if I could actually still be me, it's not
Right.
about not being Black or not, just like
No, you're just more empowered in that.
more, right? Your
Mhm.
fullest self, your
Yes.
fullest self.
No, that's yeah, that's it's a really deep consideration, and it was miraculous to me, especially just in this context. I mean, I'm not suggesting I've never heard it before, but I've never heard it put quite like that. I read also that I want to know how cathartic it was to be in a dress made of balloons. That then now I mean now they didn't, I'm sure that the article didn't do it justice. I probably needed to see it, but just dancing in that you, I mean, I would, if you put me in something with balloons, I would be concerned because I have to do the end of the piece before, and I'm one of those people who is notorious for just ruining the prop moment. If it's a prop, if it involves a costume, if Jamal is going to be the one on stage who has the issue, the costume. So, but there's something that's exciting about it because then right then do I get to pop them at the end? Is there a, do you know what I mean? Is there a release? Is there a release? Is there a, okay? See, that's, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I need to have all of that.
Well, I will say, so one of the artists that contributed to the work was Dawn Okoro.
Okay.
So she designed this balloon dress for me. I didn't actually know what she was going to make.
Oh,
And so she designed this balloon dress. I didn't even try it on until the 5 hour event happened.
wow.
Um, and it by itself was beautiful. But then it was just like when you put it on, it gave you all this permission. And yes, there were some popping that happened, and they were long balloon. They're like long.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So instead of the round balloons, they're like these long, tubular, the ones
Right.
you make balloon animals out of. And so I did think, though, it was important for me to give that opportunity to my students. So they
Right.
got balloon dresses they got balloon dresses as well.
Oh,
And
nice.
but I gotta say, it is so much fun. Like to just like they are swirling and you can pop them, and it's very freeing and satisfying. Yeah.
Yes,
But you,
that sounds amazing.
well, and I know we're gonna like run out of time real quick because
Oh, I'm waiting.
I've
Yeah,
been
no, yeah,
stalking
you
you
know that.
too. I've been stalking you too because I'm like, oh, I'm really interested about this. So like, oh, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna like be all up in Madonna, like, that leap that I think is so difficult for some dancers to imagine, from concert dance to entertainment to and like that you have all of that within your wheelhouse, like how they speak to each other. And um, how did you feel like what you learned over here was translatable to what you learned over here? was translatable even to writing a book, right? Like these are things that people are like, oh my gosh, you only do, but
Right.
all of those are a part of who you are, and that's
Oh,
just amazing, and I love that.
yeah. No, thank you. I've been very fortunate to sort of have the opportunities to capitalize on. But yeah, you know, everyone always talks about sort of these foundational techniques. You know, we say, oh, if you have a lot of ballet technique, then it's foundational. You know, and my thought was, it's not really one technique. It's just any discipline that you put in your body in spades is going to be foundational enough for you to then do other things. I'm from LA too, so I was trained in LA in all of the disciplines, but then had
Mm-hmm.
access right there to the commercial dance world. So I had an understanding of what that was, so that years later, when it was time to audition for Madonna, I had some kind of clue, although it didn't go quite as brilliantly as I thought it might, but still, you know, it worked out. It worked out. And yeah, and writing books, you know, that was the other thing. You know, it was I was going to be a writer. I went to the California Academy of Mathematics and Science because I was going to go into science first, because astronomy was the thing. And then, you know, I always tell people dance chose me. I mean, I didn't grow up thinking I wanted, this was divine in every way. God said, this is what you're doing, Negro. Why don't you just let it go? All this other stuff. But but I did get my journalism degree at SMU as well, the TV, radio, communications with an emphasis in journalism. So I've always been a writer, and I've always needed to, dancing, you know, has been amazing. It never necessarily eliminated the need for me to get things out pen to paper. And so that's what the books were about. And now I was on the share tour when I wrote my first one, because now I had the privilege of time, you know, and a little money to do that. So yeah, no, this is it. I have been very fortunate for those opportunities, and clearly an overachiever. I've slowed down a little bit
You sure? You sure?
though. I was like, yeah.
All
Hey,
right.
Wayne.
Hey, y'all. I was so interrupted with it was the Wendy Perrin is here, and she said, "What a lovely duet! Y'all were
Oh,
dancing. Y'all were
Wendy, we hold
dancing.
Wendy to that. Listen, she's gonna write that. Write
Come on. Okay, so there's some other friends here. Ariana, who's our fabulous intern, and we are looking for interns. Saying that out there. Kalijah Mitchell, Laura Marchese, yes, and then Darcy Overby, who you mentioned, is here. Vincent Thomas is here. Stony Darling, a colleague. Hank Smith, Carla Peterson, Sandy Sawatka, another colleague. And I already told you Wendy's here. Folks are watching.
Hey,
Folks are watching.
this is good stuff. This is good
Good,
stuff.
good stuff. All right, Gesel, go drink some water.
Okay.
See you in a minute.
Mhm.
Jamal, cheers to you.
Cheers. Mm-hmm.
Wait, tell them what you're drinking before you introduce yourself.
Okay, so I am drinking. This is hot chocolate spiked with Kahlua and Bailey's, because you know it's feeling like that. I also wanted to sport my Shahimazad mug that I got to. Shahimazad is the production company that I own, which was a tax shelter, but now it actually is functioning as a space to help create and give dancers and artists of all kinds opportunities to create. Yeah, so let me tell you the stuff that I have to tell you. I am 5'10". Well, I'm 5'11" when I've had a good chiropractic adjustment, or 2 or 3. Light-skinned, non-disabled, black, muscular-ish man. He, him, his are my preferred. I have an afro. That's partly Cher's fault, but we'll get to that later, perhaps, depending on time. I am wearing a black button-up cotton short sleeve shirt. I live in my condo with Darius Crenshaw in Clinton Hill, New York, on land pilfered from the Munsee Lenape tribe of indigenous. In the spirit of the ancestors, I should mention that to my right on the wall behind me is a depiction of a Mimi spirit by an Aboriginal artist in Australia. When I was over there on tour, I went crazy. There's stuff that didn't even make it to the walls. My camera and PC sit atop the middle portion of a brown 3-piece sectional that is from handmade, non-adhesive furniture, environmentally conscious palm wood. On the walls behind me on the other side and above the other 2 pieces of furniture, are photographs, restored photographs of my mother, Gail Murray, and my grandmother, Lurleen Roland Brown, depending on which husband we're doing. She was like Liz Taylor. She had quite a few. They're both printed on canvas and stretched around wood frames. Those are ancestors. My mother's one, she's still here, driving me crazy. I love her to death. I have a goatee and a stash, and I brushed with baking soda this morning, so hopefully my teeth are ultra white. I'm grateful to the ancestors, grateful, not just the dance ancestors, but also the village of the still living baby boomers who participated immediately in my rearing. Really quickly, Opal Chancellor, Darlene Harris, Dolores Lakey, Linda Harbert, Rosalind Story, Philip Miner, Lynn Williams, and his siblings, not to mention those 5 women who started IABD, and lastly, Brenda Josenberger, my aunt, who joined the other transition ancestors, probably because she wasn't trying to be here for 2020. Anyhow, cheers with this Bailey's and Kahlua, spiked hot chocolate, to Charmaine, Warren, and Black Dance Stories and IABD for this opportunity to be absolutely exposed, kind of naked in the most difficult way with no real interviewer or studio audience to engage. Whose idea was this? Giselle, where are you? No. So I'm gonna talk a little about my body. It was sort of hard to figure out, in this space what to discuss, because I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of career under my belt. But I'm going to talk a little bit about my body, and I'm going to say this 3 times. Okay, this is not a complaint. This is not a complaint. For those in the chat, if folks pop in this late in the game, please tell them this is not a complaint or a comparison. I am not unhappy with any aspect of my body, but there are some, well, not even but, and there are some things that I've observed. This is just my story. And there's some real things I've experienced about sort of the sexualization of my body in all aspects of my career, which spoke a little bit, Gesel and I, for a second, about the fact that it has been pretty diverse, from concert dance to commercial work to Broadway. And in all of those places, the sort of sexualization of my body, and not just my body, bodies in general, that sort of became par for the course, right? And I started to think about this when in 2019, I was playing around with this idea of writing an autobiographical piece, a book that was sort of about my dance career in a way. And I wrote a chapter of it, just to try it out, just to see what this could be, called String, about being in a G-string. And and it made me have to take a look at my body. Okay, so let me qualify all of that. I started out in concert dance with Lulu Washington Dance Theater. And in Black dance, the Black cultural stuff is relevant and consistent with everything else Black. The ideas that the women dancers need to be strong and fierce. And so Black male dancers need to be stronger and more masculine and more manly and dense and all of this. Some of that's dictated by presenters, and some didn't, by gender mandates, and all of that stuff. I started dancing at a time that was not as where all of these things were not being discussed and hashtagged, because this was before hashtags. Anyhow, so anyway, while the Black women I worked with were being tortured by their bosses and their male colleagues often about being small enough or fit enough to be lifted and all of that, I was advised by Kevin Iega Jeff when I was dancing for Dallas Black Dance Theater. He says, you need to go pick up a barbell or something. You need to, if you can't pick her up, you need to figure it out. That's your responsibility. Get her up over your head, kind of thing. And I'm not mad about it, because that's exactly what I did. You took notes from your elders in this dance world, in this Black dance world especially. And I remember my first duet ever, sort of real duet ever, to a Donny Hathaway song, I believe, was with a dancer at Dallas Black who said to me, and she's beautiful dancer, solid muscle. So she was not light. And she said to me at the end, she said, Jamal, that was really, really good. I am so sorry. I didn't help you at all. I don't know how you did that. And I had no idea what she was talking about. I was thrilled. I was gleeful. I went, this is, we did a great job. It was great. And she just said, I didn't help at all. And so I kind of went, wow, that was the beginning of my sort of question about this body stuff. Like how serious is it really? This was during the time I was in Dallas. I was in undergrad at Southern Methodist University, and I was dancing with Dallas Black Dance Theater under Ann Williams, whom I love to this day. And I was also very kind of artistically pious. I'll say I had some artsy piety. I would get pissed whenever someone would ask me, what do you do? And I would say, oh, I'm a dancer. And they would go, which club? And I would get indignant, like, what you mean, which club? I'm not a stripper. I'm a dancer. I'm an artist. I would do that thing, which now seems really kind of hilarious and absurd. And so I held on to a little of all of that. And then I graduated. I got to Donald Byrd in New York. And that company, hard company to dance for at that time. But I was making it, right? I was only slightly poverty stricken versus extremely poverty stricken, which is to say I had a job. And I was constantly, dealing with my body in this artistic way. And after my first year of the company, I realized I had to figure out what I was going to do during the layoff period in the middle, in between years 1 and 2, because when you're in concert dance, you're not paid 52 weeks of the year most of the time. Those contracts don't last that long. There's going to be a layoff, and so ours was maybe 9 weeks in the middle of the summer, and I needed to do something. So I went to audition to be a go-go dancer, stripper, really, but whatever, at the Roxy, big, huge nightclub. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was very, very large, and I remember showing up there. And I had to figure out what I was going to wear. So I asked Alexandra Damiani, who was dancing with me. She's later the artistic director of Cedar Lake. I asked her, I held up the blue thong and the red thong, and I said, well, which one of these should I, do? And she's just, Jamal, Jamal, the red one, so I put the red thong on and I show up at the club and it's freezing, and I'm auditioning, and this was the moment where I was having to now, this was only a few years after I was, that indignant artist, right? I was having to now renegotiate my body as a sexual commodity, right? One thong at a time, because I had just been on stage doing an evening of concert with Donald Byrd in a dance belt. And when I say in a dance belt, I'm just plugging this in because, of course, now the battery is going to start to run out. But I say in a dance belt because, that was it. It was a dance belt. And in one piece, we were in like a little brief, that always, if you have anything back there, it's going to run up into the thong anyway. So whatever. And I remember that now I was taking the dance belt off and putting on a thong. So, and I had to start thinking about the idea that piece of fabric was dividing the same two booty cheeks, no matter what the context, art or club. And either way, I was making something. I was making money from it, if not some kind of artistic fulfillment. I can only imagine what's going on in the chat right now. I wish I could see it. Anyhow, so I was going from, this Byrd ballet called Utopia, which later got performed by Dallas Black Dance Theater as well, to nightclub. So from dance belt to thong. And I thought about a whole lot of things, my mother and all of those villagers that raised me. I thought about all of them and thinking the last thing they were interested in me doing was getting up on a bar with some Timbs and a thong and sunglasses. But this is what I had to do. Fast forward a few years later, only 2 at the most, I got the Madonna tour, and during that, for a section of it that was very, very specific, I was a buto, right? So I got to be powdered, with some white. I guess it was chalk. It was a quick change, so it had to be that in lieu of paint, and ankle harnesses put on, and sort of in a cocoon, you were shot up on some winch motors in the dark, and then the lights come on, and you're in this cocoon, and you throw the fabric down, and you're hanging by your ankles in a thong. Now it's a beautiful thong. It's it's got some kind of meshy something or other going on, and there's some fabric involved, but you're in a thong in front of 18,000 people, several nights, well, not several nights a week, but several nights a month in a thong. And so that's when I had to think even yet again about the objectification of my body in sort of in in a sexual way. Of course, the context wasn't sexual, but you know, your booty's out and you're in a thong. So there's a reckoning that has to go on. Well, I guess it doesn't have to, but it certainly did for me. And so I had to really consider that. And you know, it's a story that I'm reluctant to tell. I felt like this was a perfect place to tell it. I'm reluctant to tell it. I wrote the chapter string, and I'm reluctant to even put that in a book if I decide to do that, or someone decides, you know, we really would read this damn book. Please write this damn book. The pieces that Charmaine's nodding, and I'm like, I have to. I am not as young and energetic as I was when I wrote the first two books, which were self-published, 1234. I knew I had to have them. This is the first one. This was just a labor of love. I loved it. I wrote it for way too long. It's overwritten. Some of it is absolutely too much, but you know, it's a series of short stories that are interconnected. It's sort of like Crash in a way, in terms of that, but over a much longer period of time. And then once I realized that I was having a branding problem, because I would show up, and this book was taught in some universities, and I would show up, and the English classes would look at me and go, so it says back here that you dance with Madonna and Cher. Why aren't you writing about that? And then I had to kind of sort of get into, well, I signed an NDA. I can't write about that. You know, I got it. This was supposed to, I'm only supposed to become a writer when I have failed in my dance career. And once I have failed in the dance career, then it makes sense for me to pick up a pen, right? That's the kind of narrative that the student was hinting at, and I understood. So the next book, Toss in the Ether, is about a Black dance company based in Dallas. One of the dancers pushes her husband down the stairs, and that creates some issues for the company. Anyway, it's not Dallas Black Dance Theater, and it's not a true story. So it's fiction. Okay, but the point that I'm making here is that I wrote these two books, and I self-published at a time that when I had the energy to really do that. And of course now I do not. So if I write anything and publish anything else, someone else is going to do that. Someone else is going to publish it. Some academic institution is good. Somebody's press is gonna, and they're gonna edit and tell me this sucks. Go back and do this again, and I'm gonna go back and do that again. That's how that's gonna work. But back to this idea of sort of the body, and this chapter that I wrote called String. I mean, it was very cathartic in and of itself to sort of deal with also the perception of mine, right? You know, I talk to these youngsters who are all over Instagram naked. I mean, and I'm not complaining. They're stunning. Stunning bodies. You know, John Bond and Michael Jackson Jr. and like these, I mean, really beautiful dancers too, who are naked all the time, and I'm here for it. And I look at them, and some of them will say to me, Jamal, you're the reason. We're trying to look like you. And I'm like, really? Seriously? So then that got me to this idea where, oh, so people are paying attention to that, and then it becomes about the standards, right? And so then I started to think, well, why do you look like this, Jamal? Other than the fact that Aiga said you need to go to the gym, what were the inspirations? And then I said, oh, I remember when I was dancing at Lula Washington Dance Theater, I was this, you know, very stringy 16-year-old, 17-year-old maybe. And I saw, I'm going to take it way back. Okay, so you may have to delete this part of this broadcast for certain things, Charmaine. But Shantae Moore's Old School Lovin', this music video that came out with a beautiful model who became a friend of mine named Lamar. And I used to look at pictures of him and go, I want to look like that. That is what, if I'm going to do this, I want to look like, that's what I want to look like. I need to be the one that's in the video, you know, in the music video. Now I sit on the music video agreement negotiating contract for SAG-AFTRA or committee, SAG-AFTRA music. So it's all full circle, right? It's all full circle. But it's true, we are inspired by each other's bodies. We're inspired by, because they are commodities, right? They are looked at in this way, and male dancers are no different in that respect. the standards as about what they need to look like might be a little bit different, very, very different from what I see for women. Especially because I find that my female colleagues are often saddled by this whole virgin whore thing that is, just all over the industry. It's, oh, we want you to look, we want you to be respectful and respectable, but you need to show up to the music video in the thong. Like, you need to be at the audition for the music video in the panties or the thong and then we need you to, whore all over the set to get the job. So there's that, right? I mean, there's this value, especially in the commercial dance industry, on sex and the selling of it in such a profoundly large way that they have to deal with that aspect of it. So when you have someone like Ebony Williams, who is a close friend of mine, who is brilliant in every way, she's going to go from point shoes over here, where her body has to look a certain way because she's in a point shoe over here, and then to a pump for Beyonce over here. That I can't even imagine what that is. I just can't. Woo, And so I want to write that book too at some point. If she'll let me do it. She probably will. She'll complain the whole process, but she will. I'm gonna see if I can get it. If you'll read that, then just text me, DM me if you'll read that book, because you may not want to read mine, but I bet you'll read that one. That one, Ebony Williams, you'll read hers. We spent lots of time in this very living room when she was here drinking wine and other things, talking about all of this stuff. So yes, please take a sip, Charmaine, and everyone take a sip of something. That's been my latest interest is in trying to sort of figure out what all of that is, and putting myself on blast, not being afraid to sort of, at this point when I have nothing to prove, and I'm 1,000 years old in dance years, to sort of deal with all of that. I recently performed for Earl Mosley for Diversity of Dance in a really, really powerful dance film called Unconquered. That if it's not available, it will be soon. Just check with me or go on my page. It's there. It's brilliant. And I don't say that because I was in it. I didn't actually get to see the entire thing until everyone else did. But I was in a dress at one point in it, and for reasons that will make a lot of sense to those of you who have an opportunity to see it. But of course, then again, here again in the same ballet, I've gone from a hoodie and sweatpants to a full dress, and I felt naked in that context as well, even though I'm covered. But there's a reconciliation of your body, of the sort of moving body in that context that I had to address again, and not in a bad way. Again, not a complaint. I just want to say too, also, before Charmaine totally cuts me off, I have been, although I'm doing good, right? I'm doing really, really well. See? Ha-ha! Success. I want to say that I have been unclothed the majority of my career. When I was with Complexions, I remember Miho was the costume woman in the company. She came over with a Ziploc bag, and she said, here's your, and I said, well, where's the rest of the costume? I said, is it on a hanger? She says, no, this is it. And now I wasn't the only one. Most of us were pretty naked in that, but I'm just saying, part of the reason for this conversation for me is about the fact that naked has been the way to go. Cher, I did it for her too, only I'm now up in the air higher with someone else naked. Yeah. So yeah, that's where we are. Charmaine, you probably know some of that history, but
Of course I do. But I didn't expect you to tell the other part.
Oh yeah, there's some other things in string that I didn't mention in this conversation that have to do with presentation inside the thong, and but and if you are all interested in that, I will try to write that book. But y'all have to
Well,
you're gonna read it.
come on back, Gesel. And I have to say that Trevian is here. And of course, they're all saying, write that book. Troy Hunter is here too. And they're saying, write that book. And I'm sure our friend Gesel is saying, what, Gesel?
Write that book.
Okay.
If
Oh my
there's a,
gosh.
if there, I know that UT has a press somewhere over there. Maybe I can get one of them, someone over there to hook me up and say, we'll do this with you. We'll go down this road with you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is when I usually try to find, oh, and there are some questions in the chat, but talk amongst yourself. I told you who else is here. And of course, lots of name dropping too. And Wendy says, oh yes, I remember Ebony. Oh, Ebony. Okay, so here's, wait a minute. Vincent said the title of the book is One Thong at a Time, which is what you just said. Gesel.
Well, he's not. It's a good idea. I mean, part of it is that's, of course, I was gonna go through all the other aspects of different things. This was just gonna be one chapter. This thong, one thong at a time. Yes, there's gonna be one chapter. There are, of course, all kinds of other things to cover. We got to deal with sexuality. We got to deal with, male gender expectations and stereotyping and there's a whole lot to deal with over the course of the premise behind the whole thing is that it is really being a black male dancer is one of the most badass, kick-ass things that you can pursue, that you can take on. It really is.
Wait, let me ask just
less hard or challenging. It is too. It is an and.
Okay. Forgive me if I misquote you. One of the kick-ass things to do is be a male dancer. Did you just say that?
One of the most kick-ass things that you can pursue is dance as a black man. Which isn't to say that that's not true about black women. Again,
I was just gonna open the door to let Gesel just go. Gesel.
I saw it coming, Charlie. I saw it coming.
Yeah, it is an and. It is not an or. It's just that we don't talk about it.
I'm gonna let Gesel take this, and then when I see you, Jamal, it's another story. Gesel, might you want to comment?
Well, it's so funny that you would talk about all of this because I too have my background of being a stripper in New York. Yep, to support my dance habit. Right. I wanted to go to the Lamone Summer Workshop, and in order to back it up, that was something, not literally, those two things are together, but I had to back it up. You see what I did there? Okay. And here's the thing that's ironic. Like I have a whole body of work that was around the performances of female sexuality, similar to sort of what you're describing. And here's the irony, again, that blend between, I didn't imagine when I had on my point shoes and I was doing X, Y, and Z, that I would then be creating concert dances around the performances of female sexuality and using Audre Lorde's work and words as a part of the project, right? So, and I have something that you were calling that, when you were talking about the virgin whore complex, I call it hophobia.
Yes.
And you can have some internalized hophobia, which is actually IHOP for short. Internalized hophobia.
I can't. Listen.
Because I know I got some coconut water. I'm gonna be
There's a panel in there, Gesel. There's a whole panel in just that. IHOP, internalized hophobia.
Fear of being perceived as a hoe.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, but this idea
Speechless.
this idea of, Audre Lorde talks about how the erotic gets co-opted by the pornographic. And so you have these outside forces, again, that determine how it is that you are supposed to be and with your sexuality. And that can show up like there's policing that happens in the home, there's policing that happens on the stage. And then you get these dichotomies where you're like, no, you should, like, this is what I loved about everything you said, which was your point, was like, what's the difference between the thong here and the dance belt here and the I get paid this much? But then you got, you know, like you said, these places where you're like, I'm showing up, I am the same person, but in order to get this job, I have to show up this way. In order to get this job, I have to show up this way. And yet at the same time, we still want to pretend or have this idea of piety and, you know, and it's like, how is it that we can also, and some of the work that I'm doing now is around these questions of like, how do you show up? Like, how can I actually have claim over my own sexuality in my own spaces? And knowing that when a lot of society is like, you're being paid to have this kind of body. And I even love that question you asked, like, wait a minute, where did this come from? Where did I learn or understand that my body should look like this? Where did I then develop these like, oh, that's, you know, and you see the magazines or the what's on TV or in the media, and these things we don't even understand sometimes how they're being like piped into our psyche of how it is that we're supposed to show up. You know, and again, this idea of undoing, of just trying to be like, wait, who am I underneath all of that? What do I actually want? What am I interested in? What do, you know, and that journey from 20s on, on, you know, of reckoning with all of that, with body image and sexuality and Blackness and gender and identity. And, you know, it's so interesting to see how these continue to like ebb and flow through our lifetimes, you know, and shift and change. It's really quite amazing. So thank you for bringing that up, because I do think sometimes we won't talk about it at all. Right. Or the sexualization of young boys and girls, and, or, you know, like we don't talk about that. And yet these things happen, and they happen in our dance studios. And we don't always want to talk about that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And it's such a layer. There's so many layers, you know, to it. There's so many layers, because you want to, especially when you're trying to get the discipline part, right? You're trying to get the discipline, and it is also affecting your body. It's affecting the presentation of it, what it looks like, what it is. You're looking in your head at someone else's body as the standard. And and you don't even know, you don't even realize you don't know where it came from. And so it's a lot to unpack. I specify Black male because I am one, so I don't want to speak for anyone else's experience. I'm certainly not suggesting that it is only that I'm the only one with that question or with that, you know, with that concern ever. I just can't write Ebony's book from Ebony's perspective, but I can help her write, and I can help you write yours, Gesel.
I'm ready. Come on, I'm ready.
Listen, I can do that. I can definitely do that. Yeah. But I'm ready for you, Charmaine. It's okay. Well, I'm ready for you.
Don't. Oh, and I'm so glad that Gesel took you on. Don't try. You can't run. Hold on to something. Feel something. What you say, Gesel? Where are you right now? What is it saying? Yes, and thank you very much.
And see. So listen, we brought that. See, do you understand the? See what I did there? That was very full circle. And yes, and
yes, and all right. So generally, we try to find
questions
from the, but people are going on and on. As you said, I can only imagine what the chat is saying about the thongs. But I think this is just a fabulous coincidence. These pairings are always magical. When was this time, Gesel, that you were doing what Jamal was doing, and where were you doing? I know it. Jamal said the Roxy. What year was your dancing, stripping, doing?
Yeah, I wasn't at nothing called the Roxy. Mine was, you know, somewhere up in New York before they cleaned it up, you know. And speaking of bodies, like I'm small up here, so I wasn't, and my hair wasn't like long and flowing. So there were some expectations that they wanted to have in certain clubs. So I wasn't at some of those clubs where you might have gotten maybe lots and lots of money. I was, somewhere in the intermediate, tier. And this was in college. Yeah, this was in college. And that hierarchy that you're talking about of like, oh, I don't do that. And all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I do that.
Uh-huh.
I am doing that, and all of the sort of the mind jumble that I had to go through, the gymnastics, and then finally settling on like, there were people in the club who were in trouble, and there were people in the club who were paying off their grad tuition bill. Right. Like there was no sort of like hierarchy of, oh, this person is better or this person is, it was like we all in there trying to get the money to do what we wanted to do, needed to do to survive, right? So
wow.
it was a real shifting in my sort of psyche and understanding. And yeah, like you were talking about, like, no, I don't do that. And it's like, wait, why not? Why not? Especially when also growing up in ballet, right? And I got this bottom, but all of a sudden you're not supposed to have one of those, and you don't look like, again, these images, they're playing out, whether it's on TV or on the bar next to you. It's like, what is the body type that you're supposed to have? So, that discussion, whether it was at the strip club or standing at the ballet bar, some of those questions are still playing out in terms of what kind of body should I have? Do I feel good about who I am in my body? Nobody else here looks like me. Who is it that I'm supposed to be looking like?
And
Yeah.
I worked 2 private parties. They were very scary. And one, I mean,
wait, this is during the Roxy days?
No, this was right. This actually was a little before. It was before, because the catch to the Roxy story is that I got the job, but then this was in May or whenever the end of the season was, and they said, "Oh yeah, so we love you. We think you're fantastic. We'll see you in September." And I went, what am I going to do until September? I'm trying to make money now. So I ended up not working at the Roxy. But I did do some private parties around that time. And the one I have to say, the one that I got paid the most for was predominantly same gender loving women. They actually tipped me better than everybody. And then I said, this is what I should be doing more of. And then I So also too that all of the things that I was expecting didn't happen quite the way, even in the context of that. All of my judgments and expectations and internalized stereotyping and all of that stuff didn't really work out the same way either.
I'm thinking about teaching, and I know you have students, and you too, Jamal, and the judgments and the stereotyping, and how we say to ourselves, boy, I wish I knew then what is it?
Yeah.
What I knew then. And do these things come up with your students, the judgments and the stereotyping? And do you recall and say to them?
Yeah, it comes up with my, I don't teach the same group of students as regularly, but the ones that I mentor and have over the years, there are some things that they have, and they don't know where they got it either. They're not clear on how their thoughts were formed that way, how much of it was societal, how much of it was in the dance studio, how much of it, and yes, those things come up, and then trying to address them sensitively, you know what I mean, so that they are able to sort of have a point of origin for the thought process or the problem, if you will, and then come around to a healthy way of looking at it, so that they are able to still respect whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? Whatever it is that they're confused about. Gesel, do you have that too going on?
Well, I feel like we try to talk a lot And I think there's been some shift, and there needs to, the shifts continue, because there are some assumptions about the kind of body that
Yeah.
you should have if you're going to be in the dance world field. And we like to say, oh, yeah, no, everything. But like, really, when the thing you're seeing over and over again is a certain body type, and there's a way that we even, see and receive bodies. So I feel like it becomes a constant conversation about, not just saying it, but also trying to provide a culture and a space where different bodies are actually seen, welcomed,
Yes.
encouraged and spotlighted. So it's one thing to just, to tell a story and to say, yes, you can do anything, you can, but until you see that,
Yeah.
until you see examples of that, it's hard for you to like really believe that, because again, these stereotypes and expectations show up in sometimes ways that you don't know how it even
Oh,
got there. So I think there's a large part of really just trying to instill, um, and encourage and welcome and invite
mm-hmm.
multiple bodies, approaches, in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And also as a teacher, being sure that, that I'm also seeing the multiple bodies, because there's things that sometimes we don't even realize that we're,
Right.
oh, I'm, you know, and then it becomes just larger than that. Like the person who is in the corner in the back that you might miss, and who is putting themselves in the corner in the back that you might miss. Like what are the ways that we are also thinking about in our methodologies and in our pedagogies about how we are making sure that there are really truly more opportunities for more diverse voices,
Mm-hmm.
bodies to be showing up. And where are we saying things that even we're not even aware of, like, oh, I've lost so much, or I've gained so much, or oh my gosh, how do I feel about myself because I looked a certain way? These things that are like even in our language, right? So I feel like it's a constant sort of awareness checking.
Oh yeah.
Awareness checking.
Yeah, and then also the history too, knowing some things like if you know about Sarji Bartman or or the Venus
Mm-hmm.
hotspot, you understand sort of how where some of this stuff comes from, and certainly as it pertains to Africanist stuff, right? It's good to have those reference points so that you can approach your body from a healthy space with enough information and awareness of how some of these things that can be pernicious have seeped into the even the pedagogy, right? Even the lexicon of dance and the sort of performative expectations, and then casting, right? Like casting. It doesn't casting if you are doing it dancing in the music video, or dancing in the concert dance company, or dancing for one of those five women that I mentioned for. Do you know what I mean? Mentioned before. It's all like all of those things become relevant, and sort of having a reference point for as many reference point, not just one, as many reference points as possible is helpful in maintaining a certain kind of personal health about your body, I think.
I love that you all kept saying healing and healing, and it's a continuous work.
Mm,
Well,
mm,
it's
mm. Better preach that truth. I am just loving it sitting here in my educator self and my dancer self. You all are, it's like, show the world we are smart, we are amazing. So I just, whoop. Okay, thank you.
And I'm thinking of Makita at the bar, who is a ballerina. Can I say that, Makita?
Pardon me.
Dance,
Pardon me.
part
More.
of her
Yeah.
at the bar, and looking at the bottoms next. Oh boy. Well, beautiful people. Of course, it's time. It's time to say goodbye.
No.
That's really cool.
Yes, you can.
Are we gonna be? I just want to know? Is there a way that we can see this chat after? Like, I just want to.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, cool. It'll be okay. That's all I want to ask. Okay.
absolutely. So this is when I ask if we've missed anything. If you want to do a shout out, if you have anything coming up that we should tell our beautiful audience about.
Gesel, go for it.
He just said, go.
Well, I do want to invite folks to visit GiselleMason.com, because a lot of the things that we've talked about, burst, yes, and there's a lot of information there, including a 5-minute video of the 5-hour event that is like kind of condensed. But it's also talking about no boundaries and how that is continuing to grow. And so there's a lot of stuff there. So check that out. Hopefully, spring break is next week. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yes. Right. And wait, Gesel, that was with 651 Arts, right?
No boundaries?
Yes.
Part of it was with 651 Arts. And then it was also supported by like the NEA, and we ended up doing it at 651 Arts presented it at the you know, my mind, I'm just drawing a blank.
Billie Holiday?
Yes, the Billie Holiday. Thank you.
Holiday.
At the Billie Holiday. That's what I was missing. Thank you.
And I have to big up 651 Arts because they're lifting us up. BDS 651 Arts. Yes. All right, Jamal.
That's why I threw the microphone to her, because she's smarter, so she's gonna remind me what to say. So I have a website as well, which I would not have thought to mention, jamalstory.com, and there are different pages on it. You can find both books on it. There's a blog on there. If you go through that blog, there's also a relevant blog article I wrote for. I was invited to write for a gay Black blog on Tony Britz. He's the deceased fitness instructor that you saw last year that just showed up all over the place. And I made a comment on Facebook, and there's a whole article I was invited to write on sort of Black male bodies, and where they go with these dancers and how they just get lost and then they show up again, long after or posthumously. So there's a blog on there. There's stuff on the books on there, and there's of course I'm heavy into dance advocacy these days. And there's a lot of information for young dancers. I'm also an insurance broker, so if anyone needs any insurance, I wear that hat as well. I'm trying to cultivate a little bit more generational wealth for us, and I want to make sure that people are retiring in this independent contractor life. So get at me if you are needing, an insurance policy.
That's everybody, Jamal. That is everybody.
There you go. All right, I'm passing it to Makeda before we say goodnight.
All right. For our Black Dance Stories family watching, a reminder to like this video and comment, subscribe on our YouTube channel, follow us on our social media so we can grow this beautiful community. Next week's artists are Sidra Bell and Archie Burnett. So save your Thursday the Thursday evening next week.
Yes, and I want to add that I keep hearing that people gather over the weekend if they don't join us on Thursday nights, even though we want you here on Thursdays. So yeah, save your Thursday and your weekends. Thank you, Makeda. Cheers, everybody. And from us to you, we quote the good congressman, and we say, go on out and get into some good trouble.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night.